Hello and welcome everyone, I'm Maddles and you're watching another StarCraft 2 England cast. Today I have got a game from the Razer Replay pack of the week. It's a best of one and it is between LiquidZenio, the red Zerg in the lower left, and a player called Pentalaimon. I think that's how you say it. That is the blue Zerg in the top right. Pentalaimon? That's what I'm going to go with anyway. If I get it wrong and Pentalaimon is watching, I do apologise, or if I just have lost the ability to read, then do forgive me. I haven't long been back from Insomnia 46, the biggest gaming festival in the UK, doing all the official casting for their SC2 tournament, so basically I'm sleep deprived, I haven't recovered, I'm trying to do loads of casting ready, so I can still be putting out content every single day of the week while I'm away for, well, 2 weeks, so do bear with me, and obviously, well, I'm just going to try and cast this as best I can. Obviously it is a ZvZ, so there is so many different options available to these two players. I mean, it is literally anything. I mean, judging by the fact they both do have an Overlord out and it's still droning, we're not going to see any 6 balls, or 7, 8, 9, or 10 balls, and no 11 overpull. We could still see anything from a 13, 14, 15 pool, a hatch first. There's literally so many options available. That is one of the beauties. You could see a 14, 14. ZvZ just has so many different openings you can go for, each with slightly different things, and ultimately it's why quite a few people, especially Zerg players who are actually playing the game, find ZvZ so difficult, because it's very confusing what's going on, and it can be very difficult to work out what your opponent's doing. And what it ultimately all comes down to is whether they're making these beautiful things, drones, or whether they're making units. And the transition, due to the way Zerg mechanics work with the lava mechanic obviously injects, is very quickly. A Zerg player can go from having absolutely nothing to an awful lot of units, and you have to prepare for this. Now, that drone, you may think what was going on there, that kind of drag around, that's just checking the edge of the creep to make sure there's no spine crawlers or anything like that being built. And Pentalaimon actually going for a very early expansion, just as Zenio is doing. Both of them went for a spawning pool at roughly the same time. Pentalaimon's slightly later, which should mean he's about to drone up, or no, actually not. He is getting up another drone now though, so will pull ahead fractionally. Is one down now as he does start that extractor, so getting a gas a lot earlier than Zenio is, and that is basically going to help him significantly in terms of getting either speed or banelings out. Now, Zenio is getting out his first gas now as well, and there's actually two chain of thoughts in what you do with the gas you get early on. Chain 1 is really, obviously go for Zergling speed. It does give you more map mobility, it allows you to reinforce quicker, do a little poking and harassment. The other mentality is get a baneling nest first. The reason for that, it keeps you safe against the mass Zergling push, which can actually ruin your day, especially if you don't have those banelings, because if you have been droning and your opponent gets this expansion, for example, cuts all drone production and instead just uses that extra hatchery to get a whole load of speedlings out, you can have serious problems and find it very difficult to defend it unless you do have banelings. So I'll be very interested to see what these two players go for, what they use their first gas for. Pentalaimon clearly is going to be going for speed first due to the fact he's got over 50. So is Zenio. He's probably going to get out that speed first as well. So it'll be interesting to see if any drones are pulled out of gas. Obviously, that is another thing you can look for if you do get any scouting information, is whether after this little kind of sparkly shimmering on the top of the spawning pool has occurred, that speed has started, if any drones are pulled from gas. Now, so far for both of these players it has not been, so they are both going to still keep getting gas, and that really opens up the option to either go into roaches or banelings, both of which are very viable. Obviously the banelings are a more immediate short-term solution to any problems you could get, allows you to deal with those Zerglings very quickly, and that is exactly the route both of these players are going from. Obviously roaches is more phase 2. I like to think of ZvZ as a multiple phase game. Phase 1 is basically who has the most Zerglings. Then it gets banelings come out, and basically banelings wreck Zerglings, so it's then that Zergling baneling phase, Ling Bling, which is very stressful, very micro intensive, and can win games and get games which actually stay in that period for an awfully long time. And then, of course, you transition out of that by getting roaches. Obviously, Zerglings themselves, in large numbers against small numbers of roaches, are very effective, whereas banelings are very ineffective against roaches. So that's why, once that roach number starts getting higher, Zerglings and banelings aren't effective anymore. The downside, of course, to roaches is until they get up into that high number, they're vulnerable to a lot of Zerglings. We should then see, obviously, out of the roaches, either Roach Infester, which is very potent. Obviously, fungal growth does bonus damage to the armor of roaches and really helps you engage effectively. You can also get Roach Hydra. That's a very interesting option as well. It can be good. Hydras obviously come out quite quick, but it's quite expensive, and again, you need to have good engagement angles. Or you can get Mutalisks, obviously they're very potent, but I mean Mutas, you tend not to see the roaches, you tend to actually just see Mutalisks come straight out. The downside to those is of course that while you can come and harass and poke and prod around, if your opponent has gone for roaches, then really the best option is they just come and kill you. Now we do have quite a few Zerglings out on the map right now, but both players have great Overlord positioning. A third base for both these players is on its way. Now the reason Zenio's was later is he essentially saw it come out with that Overlord. Now this is where things start getting pretty hectic. We see units moving around literally everywhere and anywhere. We do have this one Zergling from Pentalaimon just going to see if he can spot out that third base, and of course it does, but he knows he's ahead in terms of the base production. That's going to be very, very helpful. Now of course this is where we get our first little bit of bling bling, and that was a massive Baneling hit down there for Zenio. That was absolutely brilliant. He's going to try and pick off that second Baneling, but for the moment that is absolutely brilliant. For those of you who don't know, it takes 2 Banelings to kill a Baneling, but only 1 Baneling to kill Zerglings. So that is why you always see them in pairs, because that way if a big group of Banelings comes towards you, then obviously you can detonate 2 Banelings to kill more than 2 and engage cost effectively. But Zenio, that was definitely a big win. As you can see here, 75 resources lost for Zenio compared to 300 for Pentalaimon. That was a massive Baneling hit, ever so helpful right there. The 4th gas is up now. We do have the Roach 1 and Evo Chamber finished for Zenio. Meanwhile, Pentalaimon, he is getting up the 1-1 upgrades for the melee. The +1 missile attack on its way out for Pentalaimon as well. For Zenio rather. So the upgrade advantage will go to Pentalaimon, but he needs to be careful of these Banelings, and now has actually sacrificed his third base. And I mean, yes, these Banelings are coming in, but only if they get a good hit will they be effective. And with Zenio's own Banelings, it's going to be very hard to defend. Those Zerglings for Pentalaimon are going to have to be careful. One Baneling hit does go off. It's difficult to see just how effective it's going to be, but these big clumps of Zerglings have to be careful, but Zenio didn't engage as best as he could there. Now Pentalaimon does have the advantage in number of Zerglings right now at 15 to 12, but that's not huge. Obviously there are those 5 roaches out, and as the roach number starts getting higher, things will get more effective. Zenio getting that infestation pit out now as well. The roach speed, so very much transitioning into what I call phase 3 of the game, where you, or actually phase 4, where you have that Zergling, roach plus something, so roach infest, and against your Zerglings that'll be hard. Some good hits go down there from Zenio. Now it's very easily going to be able to clean up all of these Zerglings. Does get 1 Baneling detonated on 1 Zergling though, which is always good. Now obviously the roaches are, Roach 1 is now out for Pentalaimon, who is starting to get his own roaches out at, or should do at some point soon. The working count very much in Pentalaimon's favour though, 55 to 63. That is directly comparable in a mirror matchup, and that therefore means that Pentalaimon does have the better income. And if this game goes on without any damage being done, it will go into his favour. The 1-1 upgrade's nearly done, and the +1 missile attack nearly finished for Zenio as well. He's got pathogen glands on the way, and also that roach speed that will help his effectiveness in dealing with the mass Zergling force effectively. Now I'll be very, very interested to see if Pentalaimon does start the roach production, because he has committed to the 1-1 upgrades for the melee, and 1-1 Zerglings can actually be very, very effective, especially against roaches, because, well, they deal so much damage. The +1 attack, very, very helpful with just such a high attack speed. +2 melee attack started and +1 missile attack started. Now, this is going to be a good engagement here. Not quite enough Zerglings there for Pentalaimon to be happy to engage. The first infestors on their way out for Zenio right now. We also do have 7 roaches on the way for Pentalaimon. And with the roaches as well, it should be quite easy for Pentalaimon to engage this force. So he's attempting to take his 4th base, and it's a 4th base I don't believe Zenio is aware of. So that is going to be very, very helpful for Pentalaimon, unless it is scouted by these 2 roaches, which it will be. And now this could very well be forced to cancel, because I don't think Pentalaimon has enough forces out. The supply count can be quite deceiving, because obviously roaches are very heavy in supply. But here we go, we've got units coming in. The Zerglings are getting a very good surround right now, and obviously the roaches helping significantly. Some Baneling hits going off. While they don't kill roaches, they do help the engagement quite effectively, and obviously it's very difficult to see all of this going on. The more roaches coming in, and just great micros out of Zenio, just pulling back. And again, losing as minimal as possible. Slightly more resources lost for Pentalaimon compared to Zenio right now. But for the moment, extra reinforcements coming in and joining this for both sides. And, well, the Zergling numbers now are going to be very helpful here, because it will, in such a small group, roaches will not engage cost effectively against Zerglings if they do get the surround. But additional reinforcements coming in. Obviously, the infestors are there. That is really going to swing the tide of battle in Zenio's favour. Hive coming out for Pentalaimon. That is quite an early timing for Hive for ZvZ. Generally, you see it a lot later. Why we're not seeing it out or even started yet for Zenio. Zenio, of course, behind this, just getting the +2 missile attack, also getting out more infestors and roaches, a Hydra Den as well. Big fungal growth goes down, and now those chain fungals on those Zerglings and also on the roaches is going to be very, very helpful in allowing these roaches to engage as cost effectively as possible. Quite a few Banelings there though, there for Pentalaimon, and well, You've got to be careful, want to keep those infestors alive so they can regenerate the energy, but the force overwhelming at the moment for the Pentalaimon, but quite a few more roaches in production. Those infestors do need to get away safely, otherwise it will be bad times. If you're losing infestors, that is not good. You need to keep them alive as long as possible. They're expensive units, and obviously as you get greater numbers of them, it can be very helpful. Now Zenio is pulling back, he does have the queen there. The infestors are the target of Pentalaimon's push, and he's resupplying. You can see a lot of units coming across the map right now. More infestors are in there though, and for the moment Zenio has managed to hold. He should be okay, to be honest, but again, he needs to start thinking about how he's going to defend the next push, what he's going to transition to. The Ultra Cavern on the way out for Pentalaimon, and that is incredibly early, to be honest, and this is a very good build. He's gone very heavy, he's got the 2-1 upgrades, getting the +2 ground carapace. Meanwhile, Zenio is getting those Hydralisks, and they're going to be it's interesting to see how he engages against those Ultras. Ultras not too common to see in ZvZ from any of the games I've cast. Usually you see really late game Broodlords, because obviously Broodlords are good units, but again, a good little Zergling run by here. There's nothing in the way of defense aside from a handful of spines and roaches. Those upgraded Zerglings engage incredibly well against spine crawlers. One goes down very quickly. Need to be careful though. There's another run by coming to the natural as well. And this movement of Zerglings is going to be very good. It's cleaned up at the third. Some Zerglings run into the main as well though. That will get scouting information. Now targeting down the queens, because obviously queens are essentially macro units, because obviously with the lava inject it massively increases the Zerg capability to improve their macro and their lava count. One ultra on the way out, as well as the +3 ground melee attack. Ultra's on the way, ultra armor upgrade on the way. +1 ground carapace coming down here for Zenio at the moment. And now this is just great use of Zergling run-bys. It's really forcing all of these units to split around now. Zerglings will engage all of the spine crawlers, may try and engage something else as well. But for the moment, at the 4th base it has been cleaned up, but at the 3rd it's still doing a little bit of damage, but not as much as obviously Pentalaimon would like. He is getting behind in terms of the resources lost. Hasn't killed that many workers either. The worker count still in Pentalaimon's favour at 91. Possibly a bit too high at the moment. Would like to see that drop down. Getting a 5th base out as well now at the moment. The Hydras are going to really start dominating now, because obviously you can start picking off those overlords, which is going to be very annoying. Won't supply block Pentalaimon yet, because he just does have so many. But again, you want to see this push coming across. The Hydras add a lot of firepower to this army, especially with the infestors there as well. I like all three. I think is a good choice. The Ultralisks, I'll be very interested to see how they're used. Some infested Terrans getting thrown down by Pentalaimon, just trying to buy some time while those 3 additional Ultralisks do pop. And well, behind this, Zenio getting his hive up. He is maxed out at 200, so is Pentalaimon. If we look in terms of, well, actually the best thing to look at is army supply, 122 to 106, so pretty even there. The 5th base was picked up there and the council didn't go down, so that is bad news for Pentalaimon. A good little poke in by Zenio that unfortunately I did miss. The 5th base for Zenio is on its way. He's also getting up all of his gas. That'll be his 9th and 10th gas. But here we go. We've got a big engagement coming in here. The Zerglings coming down. We've got, well, infested Terrans from Zenio at the moment. Some big fungal growth going down on everyone's units. The Ultras coming in from behind, but they're getting cleaned up very quickly. And, well, big fungal growth coming out for Pentalaimon as well, who is now throwing down some infested Terrans. And this is pretty looking like, well, mutual destruction in my opinion. Neither player really coming out on top there. The resources lost, more lost for Pentalaimon, but he was already behind, so it's very difficult to say who came out worse there. Meanwhile, a big roach run by to the 3rd base down here. Obviously, this is going to pick off a lot of drones. I mean, already that was an awful lot taken down. 20 drones have been taken out, and while these roaches are taken down, there's not much in the way of a counterattack, to be honest, from Pentalaimon, so that's a bit of a shame. But Zenio playing Pentalaimon at his own game. These Ultras popping out as well, and those roaches staying up for an awfully long time. Now the Ultras are there and the fungal growth goes off, they will die very quickly. The +3 missile attack on their way out for Zenio, as well as the +3 melee attack about to finish for Pentalaimon. The +3 carapace about half done. We've got a load up of quite a few Hydras and Roaches. That will make a nice little drop into the main. Just good harassment. There's rocks in the center being picked off, because of course they are going to be the most helpful thing, and I have just clicked the wrong button completely, so I do apologize for that. I was trying to hide that down. Now that is incredibly embarrassing for me, so I'm just going to continue and pretend no one ever saw. So back to where we are going. The rocks in the middle getting taken down, and well, I'm just taking a look around this map. We've got lots going on right now. Obviously these infestors coming in. The rocks in the center are now down. A quick fire on those infestors, good. This double drop. That could be very, very potent if it isn't spotted. A lot of key tech up here, the spawning pool, the hive, the ultra, and the baning nest. So really everything minus the roach warren could go down here, depending on how quickly there is a reaction. Now, there is a handful of Zenio's overlords and overseers here, keeping an eye on what Pentalaimon is doing, but this drop, it's coming in, it hasn't been spotted, and I very much expect Zenio to start running forward with his units. Should there be a big pullback, instant reaction out of Pentalaimon right there, and well, you see already that spawning pool getting focused, and not too much getting pulled back, which is actually a good move, because otherwise that would have opened up this front here to Zenio. But for the moment, everything getting cleaned up nicely. No significant damage done there by Pentalaimon, apart from quite a few workers lost. 78 to 82 now, pretty even, but considering how far ahead Pentalaimon was for quite a while, the incomes are probably about leveled out. Obviously, these overlords and overseers are keeping a good eye on the movement of Pentalaimon's army. This 5th base yet again going to get taken down. There was a drop down the back of a couple more roaches, and those ultras are being careful because obviously a cancel could be forced here. Pentalaimon is running over with some of those infestors and the ultralisks. Of course, the plus 3/3 upgrades are done. Those ultras will take an awful lot of hits to die right now, but that Spire on its way out for Zenio, and there's not really any significant anti-air for Pentalaimon at the moment, so a switch to Broodlords could be a good choice. The 5th base was taken out, and of course Zenio does have his own 5th, so that is going to really help him. He's got the extra production, he does have the macro hatch down, could actually start considering getting a second macro hatch. I mean, it's the point where you're going there. A lot of infested Terrans getting locked out. This is going to cause a big trap around a lot of units. Big damage is going to be done here. A fungal growth goes off on all of the infestors, the ultralisks as well. Of course, ultras don't get pinned down by fungal growth, but infestors do, and that was a good little engagement there. And now we're really seeing Pentalaimon fall behind in terms of the resources lost, and no real effect of a counter-attack. We do have a 5th base and a 6th base attempt out of Pentalaimon, trying to double expand to get one of them down, because it's really starting to hurt him now. His natural is nearly mined out, so he's effectively on 2 mining bases, compared to what, the 3, nearly 4 effective mining bases out there at the moment. But this is a very, very big deathfall force, and it could be significantly difficult for Zenio to deal with Pentalaimon's force. Coming down to defend, a double drop is going down yet again, so Zenio really utilising everything. This is just absolute mayhem right now. Obviously, when in a mirror matchup, it can be quite difficult. The eggs don't actually change colour, which is exceptionally difficult to see who is coming out on top right there. For the moment, this 5th base coming down, but a drop into the main yet again could be a problem. It'll be interesting to see where it does go down. Some transfuses going off. Obviously, transfuse a great use there on the ultras, because ultras do have a lot of health points and armor, so transfusing them just gives them that staying power, allowing them to engage more cost effectively than we have been seeing. And that's what we need to see at the moment, because Pentalaimon has lost a lot more units. You've got to start engaging cost effectively. Another drop gearing up. This is going to be a multi-pronged drop right now, but Pentalaimon just punching straight through the middle here, lobbing down quite a few infested Terrans. That's just to soak up some fire. And an ultra did go down there to something, which is never good, and this is pretty great. Meanwhile, the double drop coming down, there are some infestors in there as well. The mass infested Terrans are going to be very effective. The infestors picked up again. Now, obviously, those infested Terrans will do big damage, and this is really pretty much an infested Terran fight, but the infested Terrans blocking out the ultras from being able to engage too effectively, which is less than perfect. Some burrow there. Zenio just playing so well defensively. This is pretty hectic. We've got a big drop here of Hydras and obviously infestors as well. This is pretty crazy. A lot of Pentalaimon's units pulling back. He's not going to have the momentum to push, and this is really where we're seeing Zenio pull ahead significantly. Those Hydras cleaning up quite a few buildings, some infested Terrans getting locked down, and obviously that alone to push into isn't fun. Some fungal growth being spent to try and deal with those. The infestors not getting picked up at the moment, and now we've also got a drop coming down to the 3rd. This is absolute mayhem, and to be honest, we should see a GG any minute, in my opinion, from Pentalaimon. He's lost, well, 2 hatcheries, one of which was one of his mining bases. He's lost his infestor tech. This main base could be in trouble. And now, of course, Broodlords are in there for Zenio. He's getting the +1 air upgrades. The Broodlords themselves are going to be very difficult for Pentalaimon to deal with, because aside from the infestors and the infested Terrans, then, well, he's not got much to deal with those Broodlords. And of course, the Broodlords can just keep moving backwards, so then very difficult to take out with infested Terrans. A lot of the energy from those infestors has now gone down. Pentalaimon trying to deal with the Broodlords as best he can, but not going too well. The Hydra's still allowed just free reign over in the natural base there, and well, we've got more bases up for Pentalaimon. A big fungal growth goes off though from Zenio. That is just doing so much damage. Infestors are popping, and now this is looking so good for Zenio. He is pushing forward, and well, this is absolutely crazy right now, because essentially Zenio has got those Broodlords up, and there is nothing on the field for Pentalaimon which can deal with that. We still have these infestors poking and prodding around. No bases have been rebuilt. We did have a drop down here of more infested Terrans. Not quite enough though to pick all of this off, in my opinion. The Spine Crawlers will do an okay job of defending that, but I mean, look at this for Zenio. Zenio has 34 infestors. That is sick. My concern, though, is so much of its supply is taken up in infestors that if they're taken down or they run out of energy, there's nothing really stopping this mass ultra force apart from a handful of Broodlords. Obviously, infested Terrans is getting lobbed down everywhere, and with so many on the field, this base is definitely going down right now. We had another mining base loss for Pentalaimon. More infested Terrans, and this is just hectic on the screen. It is near impossible to tell you which way this is going. There's just so many units, and, well, there's the GG from Pentalaimon. He was coming out worse if we look in terms of the work of the supply counts. So, guys, if you did like the cast, that was a pretty hectic game. Please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe, of course. I get top-level games up every single day of the week, so do subscribe if you like StarCraft 2. Leave a cool comment below on the players, the casting, or the game. And, well, I'm Maddles, this was a StarCraft 2 England cast, and I really hope you enjoyed. And, well, see you again soon. Bye for now.